Casa Branca, Chama. White House, Shama.
He wants to take on Jon Jones at the White House, the greatest of all time, depending on who you ask, of course. We're not getting into that whole debate.
Please, with all the respect, I was gonna ask for Jon Jones in the White House, but with everything that happened, it's not the right time to talk about it.
Alex Pereira stunned fans after claiming he wants to meet Jon Jones at the White House, sparking wild reactions and leaving the MMA world buzzing with speculation. After Alex Pereira mentioned moving to heavyweight, Chael Sonnen gave his take. He said Pereira's real target is Jon Jones. Chael reminded his viewers that he predicted this last week, believing the next big UFC headline would be Pereira stepping into the heavyweight division for a possible fight with Jones. This matchup could shake up the whole division.
Alex had a different idea. And Alex's idea is Jon Jones. Now, all last week, if you follow Bad Guy Inc., I told you guys that I think the storyline and the headline come Monday morning is going to be Alex Pereira at heavyweight. As a matter of fact, I told you guys, I do not believe that Jon Jones returns against Tom Aspinall. I believe he returns against Alex Pereira. Many people have one pushback, which is Chael. That is a phenomenal fight. We didn't see it coming. Love to see it. But how are you going to take Pereira and put him in a non-title fight? How are you going to take Jon Jones, who has not fought for anything but title since he was 23 years old, and put him into a non-title fight? Now, we could also agree that this one would be special. In fact, we could go even further.
Chael continued, saying some fans doubted him because both Pereira and Jones usually fight for belts. But Chael explained that this fight could be so huge, it doesn't even need a belt. He called it one of the biggest non-title fights ever, possibly even the biggest UFC fight of all time if both fighters agree to make it happen.
And we could say that Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira is the biggest non-title fight in the history of the organization, likely has an opportunity by the time it's all said and done to just be the biggest fight ever. But where do you get the conclusion there's no title? Why do you keep saying that? Alex Pereira asked to go up to heavyweight to fight Jon Jones. Jon Jones is not the heavyweight champion, but Jon Jones has not yet responded to Alex Pereira. And if he were to, or if I were Jon Jones, I would say I will fight you, but it will be for a belt. They're going to say, well, that belt's between y'all and Aspinall, and we don't quite have time to get it done. And I would tell Jon Jones, look at the man in the mirror. He's holding the belt.
Finally, Chael then explained how the matchup could actually work. He said Pereira already asked to face Jones at heavyweight, even though Jones isn't the champion right now. If Jones responds, he might demand it be for a title. Chael imagined Jones saying he's still the true champ and wants to prove he's the GOAT, which could make this fight happen soon.
I'll come see you, Alex Pereira, but I'm coming back. I'm coming to my weight class. You never should have been champion. You never would have been champion had I not left. And I'm going to come back one more time to remind you who the GOAT really is. That changes everything. That satisfies your ability to get Pereira and Jones together. That satisfies the idea of what's next for Jones, what's next for Pereira. It satisfies the idea of getting those two monsters in there and making sure we have the ultimate prize of the world championship on the line. Now, they're just words, but they're words that if Jon Jones speaks them, you can see how very quickly, very likely, that fight does come to fruition.
Following Pereira's bold comments about moving to heavyweight, Ariel Helwani said Pereira's idea to fight Jon Jones at the White House is surprising but exciting. Ariel believes the matchup could be huge, even without a belt, because both fighters are top-level stars. He added that it could be one of the biggest fights in UFC history.
I want to fight at heavyweight next. I want to fight Jon Jones. I want to fight Jon Jones at the White House. I want super fights. I'm kind of done with this. And I've had some time to digest it, and I want to ask you as well. I love it. I don't know if Jon does. I don't know if this is what Jon wants, but to me, Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira is honestly just as big as Jones versus Aspinall if we're not talking about belts. And I saw Henry Cejudo say, oh, make it for the BMF. Why? Who gives a fuck? It's Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira. You don't need some bullshit title attached to it all. Like, it's a massive fight, and it would be a massive fight anywhere.
After Ariel gave his opinion, Eric Jackman shared his thoughts too. He said Jon Jones has always chased the biggest names and challenges, not just titles. Eric explained that Jones wanted this fight after the Stipe matchup and that Pereira is the kind of opponent who excites him. He added that Jones versus Pereira would be an even bigger event than a fight with Tom Aspinall.
It's worth noting, though, that that's consistent, right? Jon has always said, it is the challenge that I want. It's the name. It's the status. That is consistent with what Jon Jones has said.
He asked for this, right? After the Miocic fight.
He wanted this fight.
Yes.
He did not want to fight Tom. Now, I think it has evolved, right? At first, I thought, okay, if you pay him, he'll fight Tom, and that seemed to not be the case, right? So now there's a little more at play there. But he has been pretty consistent. He is looking for the biggest names, the biggest challenges. And I said when we were talking about these fights, a year ago, I was saying that Alex versus Jon is a bigger fight than Jon versus Tom, and you guys were beating the drum for Tom versus Jon. I understood it. This is still a bigger fight. Alex versus Jon is still a bigger fight than Tom versus Jon. And so if this was to be made, it would be great business for the UFC. It'd be a great challenge for Jon Jones. It'd be an opportunity for Alex to really stake his claim in a new division.
Furthermore, hearing Eric's take, Ariel Helwani stepped in again with more insight. He pointed out that if Jon Jones and Alex Pereira both win, it creates a perfect setup for Tom Aspinall. Ariel said Pereira isn't the type to avoid anyone and would gladly fight Tom next. He also noted that having both Jones and Pereira at heavyweight would hugely boost the division and the UFC overall.
All right, great. But then, if Jon wins and if Alex wins, guess who's sitting pretty saying, come on, big boys. Now what are you going to do? Now you're going to duck me again? Because I can assure you Alex wouldn't duck Tom Aspinall. I think he just wants that legacy fight first. And if he beats Jon, I don't think Alex would have an issue fighting Tom. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. Now, Jon might be a different beast, but those dudes residing in the heavyweight division is way better for A, the heavyweight division, B, the UFC, and Tom Aspinall. Even if he's not fighting them, it just elevates everything. So let him fight Volkov after that.
After all the discussion about a potential super fight, Alex Pereira finally addressed the topic himself. He explained why he didn't directly call out Jon Jones to fight at the UFC White House card. Pereira said that out of respect for the situation and everything happening behind the scenes, he felt it wasn't the right moment to bring up the fight or make any official challenge publicly.
This question, and I'll answer this subject one time, and I with all the respect I have for the situation, and I've said this in the back, a lot of people try to create a lot of stuff around this. So again, please, with all the respect, I was gonna ask for Jon Jones in the White House, but with everything that happened, it's not the right time to talk about it.
Adding on, Michael Bisping weighed in on the situation. He explained that Pereira's desire to face Jon Jones at the White House shows his ambition and respect for the sport. Bisping added that given Pereira's career, his exciting performances and the fan support he brings, the UFC should give him opportunities for big, entertaining fights that thrill audiences and continue to elevate his legacy.
But that's not what he wants. He wants to take on Jon Jones at the White House, the greatest of all time, depending on who you ask, of course. We're not getting into that whole debate, but that's what Pereira wants. Now, I will say this, the man should be afforded some wild opportunities. What he did, the way he came back, the way he thrills audiences, the knockouts that he's had, the career that he's had, the impact that he's made on this sport, and the fan base that will once again be behind him is immense, okay?
Meanwhile, after praising Pereira's achievements, Bisping added more context about the White House card. He explained that while Pereira wants a fight with Jon Jones there, Dana White has already ruled it out. Bisping noted that the main event is shaping up to be Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, and any talks about contracts or negotiations for other fights, including Pereira versus Jones, haven't started yet.
Okay, there is Jon Jones at the White House. However, Dana's already said he's not going to put Jon Jones on at the White House because he needs people that he can trust. And of course, it's looking like Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler is going to be the main event. McGregor's out there talking about it, announcing it, going on Fox Sports, saying that he's negotiating directly with the White House.
It ain't a negotiation. Wow. It's a done deal, signed, delivered.
So of course, Dana White refuted that last night. He said, we're not even talking about contracts or anything like that.
We're still talking about the production and how everything's going to work at the White House. We have not started negotiating any fights.
Continuing, Bisping gave his view on Pereira's next fights. He said that while a fight with Jon Jones would be huge, Pereira has bigger opportunities in the UFC. Bisping highlighted that facing Tom Aspinall or Cyril Gane could let Pereira make history by winning a title in a third weight class, something no fighter has done before in UFC history.
Okay, I mean, that's a huge fight. That's a big fight that a lot of people would want to see. But what would you rather see? But the fight that I would rather see is Alex Pereira going up against Tom Aspinall or Cyril Gane. More than likely, Tom Aspinall, let's be honest, he's probably going to win against Cyril. Alex Pereira has the opportunity to become a 3-weight division champion, something that no one's ever done. That's never happened. We've had many double champs. We've had several simultaneous double champs, but no one has gone through 3 different weight classes and became the champion. There will be no doubt that Alex Pereira would be the greatest undisputed fighter that ever competed in the UFC, because you can't argue with the fact.
Bisping is explaining the challenge of jumping 2 weight classes from middleweight to heavyweight. He reminded viewers that Pereira is a big fighter who can handle it. Bisping noted Pereira's past fights, knockouts, and weight cuts, showing he can compete at higher divisions. He concluded that this move creates exciting possibilities in the UFC and could lead some of the most interesting and historic fights fans have ever seen.
That he was the champion in 3 different weight classes, and if he was to do that, that would be ridiculous. However, Dana said the only problem with that is that he used to fight at middleweight.
Probably that he was a middleweight. He was a middleweight, and he's going to jump up 2 weight classes in the UFC. It's not like jumping up 2 weight classes in boxing. It's a big jump. He's in a division that there's still some interesting fights. I don't know. It's just I like the guy so much. We'll see. We'll have to talk about it.
And that's true. He did. He fought at middleweight, and he was actually knocked out at middleweight by Israel Adesanya. That's when he went up to light heavyweight. And yes, okay, granted, he's a big guy. He cut from 234 pounds last week for that fight.
Following Bisping's comments, Nick Pete offered his perspective on Alex Pereira's next move. He explained that Pereira is currently on fire and that a move to the top division could immediately put him in a title fight. Nick added that with a new TV deal starting in 2026, the UFC would want to launch it with a massive fight, making Pereira's next match a huge event.
Everybody's talking about White House, everybody's talking about John Jones. No, mate, no. Alex Pereira, right now, is hot as fuck. And if he wants to go to heavyweight, his next fight is for the heavyweight championship. They've got a new TV deal kicking off at the start of 2026. They're going to want to launch it big time. There's nothing bigger than the heavyweight championship of the world. Pereira, Mr. Shammer, versus whoever is the belt holder. Most people will think it's Tom Aspinall. That is absolutely gigantic. And then, listen, man, let's imagine Alex Pereira pulls this off and he becomes the heavyweight champion of the world, and the discussion at the end of January is, well, he's the greatest of all time, isn't he? Then you've got a genuine thing then to say, go on then, let's go and fight John Jones. Go and fight John Jones then. Or likewise the other way around. He fights Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall absolutely ruins him.
After Nick Pete shared his view on Pereira moving to heavyweight, Adam Catterall added his take on the situation. He praised Pereira's recent performance and said there is no need for a trilogy fight anytime soon. Adam suggested that Pereira should aim for a bigger challenge by fighting the winner of Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane, kicking off the new year and the UFC's upcoming TV deal in 2026.
It was absolutely magnificent, and as you say, that now lays to rest the first fight. I don't think there's any need for a second fight anytime soon, with all due respect to Ankalaev.
Yeah, there's no need for a trilogy.
There's no need for a trilogy fight anytime soon. And to be honest, I'm with you. I think Pereira should absolutely go up and fight the winner of Aspinall versus Gane 100%, kick off the new year, whether it's January or February, kick off the brand new deal with Paramount with that.
Moving on, Adam Catterall's thoughts on Pereira. Sonnen shared his analysis of John Jones' potential comeback. He argued that instead of fighting Tom Aspinall, Jones is more likely to face Alex Pereira. Sonnen explained that Pereira presents the kind of high-level challenge that motivates Jones. He also mentioned that Dana White expressed concerns about Pereira moving up from middleweight, but Sonnen believes the matchup makes sense for both fighters.
I predicted for you, Daniel. I told you all week, and people were kind of looking down on me. I said, I don't think we see John Jones return against Aspinall. I think we see John Jones return against Pereira. And I said, and I don't think it matters if Pereira wins or loses. He becomes a heavyweight, and that match is so special for so many reasons. You and I understand to a little bit of a higher level what makes John Jones tick. And John Jones is not just a guy that loves the sport and he's going to show up and do it. He needs some certain reasons, but Alex provides those. By the way, there was one little piece of pushback when you and I spoke to Dana on Friday night, and we asked him this question, and Dana was just saying, look, size matters. As great as Pereira is.
On the other side, Ariel Helwani and Eric Jackman talked about how the Fight House fight card would be planned and who would appear. They agreed that the organizers, including Trump's team, care more about having the biggest stars on the card than who wins. The main goal is to make a big, exciting show that grabs attention and entertains fans.
That he said it's going to happen on June 14th, which happens to be his birthday, which happens to also be a Sunday, which is interesting, but we'll have more time to dissect that. What do you think of this idea now? The guy wins the belt. He disposes of Ankalaev. Usually the UFC doesn't like this sort of thing, but maybe they're happy he got rid of Ankalaev, if we're being honest. Do you just do it? Do you give the guy the opportunity, vacate the title, and have Ulberg fight Prochaska for the vacant title?
Look, if you're going to vacate the title, that's a great fight to do. I think that's one that the people get behind straight away. Look, you mentioned there, the UFC don't kind of do this kind of thing.
They added that the White House card is all about putting on a huge event with the top names and fighting. Whether it's Chandler, McGregor, or other stars, the aim is to create a show that gets worldwide attention. Helwani and Eric said that star power is more important than results, making the card a memorable spectacle that fans will talk about for years to come.
You know, they don't like, a champion moving up a weight class to do this kind of thing. I think an extra layer is added to this because of how the Jones situation played out with Aspinall. Essentially, at this stage, if they're doing that, they're just giving Jones what he wanted all along. We already know there's some hesitation from Dana White as to putting John Jones on this card. He's talked about his lack of reliability and things like this. And just from Aspinall's point of view, who isn't in this equation in terms of what Pereira's pitching here, I can see him being a bit peeved at that as well.
Additionally, Sonnen shared why Conor McGregor is being considered for a major UFC card. He said McGregor is the sport's biggest star, so it makes sense for him to be in the main event. Sonnen explained that the key to a great fight card is having the biggest champions and top fights, showing that star power is what makes an event exciting.
Why are we be turning to Conor McGregor? And the answer is also out there, because he is the sport's biggest star. That is true. So is that what you need? If you've got the open checkbook and you've got the magic wand, without saying names, do you say, I'm going to put as my main event the sport's biggest star? Is that your answer? Does it matter who he's fighting? What if it's a championship match? If you have an open checkbook and you have a magic wand and you don't use any names, but you're going to put the championship on, would you say heavyweight? Would you say women's 135? Would you say wherever Khamzat Chimaev's at? Like, how is it that you would answer that question? And then what if you're really going to go for a big fight? What if you really follow this for a long time? You're going to do what we used to call a super fight.
Sonnen also talked about the difficulties of scheduling McGregor for a future card. He mentioned the timing, the fact that there might not be a title fight, and the challenges with the venue and tickets. He said the biggest star should headline with a big matchup, like a championship or super fight, because without that, the card might not be as exciting or memorable for fans.
But now we call it title versus title. You're going to take the champion of a weight class and you're going to put them with another champion of a weight class. Your A side and your B side are both going to be champions. You don't get to use names, but that's the ingredients you need to bring the biggest card ever. And it's one of the reasons that I'm struggling with the idea that McGregor is being penciled in the middle of 2025 for a card that sits dead center in the middle of 2026 at a venue yet to be built, for tickets that are yet to be on sale. I struggle with it because we're openly saying if we're going to put Conor on there that there's no title. Unless you believe that Conor McGregor is going to demote himself, right? The biggest draw should be the main event.
The talk about Alex Pereira wanting to fight John Jones at the White House shows how the UFC mixes big shows with real competition. A super fight like Pereira versus Jones might not happen right away, but it shows the ambition and star power in MMA today. With Pereira moving to heavyweight and aiming for history, the UFC is set for exciting fights and memorable moments. Fans can expect big matchups, shocking results, and historic achievements. Even if timing and logistics make it tricky, just talking about these fights keeps fans excited and the UFC in the spotlight worldwide. So what do you think? Should Alex Pereira fight John Jones next, or should he take on a heavyweight champion like Tom Aspinall first? Comment below with your predictions.